ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome to another Top 10 video. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, we are going to be looking at the top 10 franchises that need just one more movie. Nowadays, it seems like every major franchise gets milked to death, to the point that audiences just stop going to see them. Whether it's just because they've lost their steam, forgot what made people fall in love with them in the first place, or they just ran their course so long ago to the point that they've now become a parody of their former selves. But for these franchises, I think they need at least one more. Whether it's to try and reconcile mistakes of the past, or that they should be given the opportunity to tie everything up into a nice, neat little bow. So which franchises do I think deserve one more shot? Well, without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 10, Hellboy. Now, of course, I am referring to the Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman Hellboy movies. Those are some of the best comic book movies ever made. Del Toro brings his amazing, fantastical creature design, beautiful practical effects, incredible action, and sense of both disgust and wonderment. And there's no way that you could ever convince me that Ron Perlman wasn't born to play the role of Hellboy. He fits into the shoes, or I guess horns, perfectly. And although I know that they pretty much put a sequel to bed in saying that it's really never gonna happen, I myself, as well as many others, still hold on to that hope that this trilogy may someday be finished. Number 9, Star Trek. For this, I am referring to the reboot Star Trek trilogy. Now, I know it could be just fine left as a trilogy, but the plans that they originally had for the fourth film, which now seems to be dead in the water, sounded amazing. It involved Kirk meeting his father through time travel and all sorts of other crazy sci-fi and time travel elements. I honestly could have taken as many of these reboot films as we have gotten Star Wars films, because those three are a very solid trilogy, but they also could act as an incredible foundation for a much larger franchise. Now, it seems as though lately the cast and crew have confirmed that the fourth film is no longer happening, and it is likely that we will see a reboot before we get a true sequel. But I would be more than thrilled to one day return to the USS Enterprise with this very crew. Number 8, The Raid. Director Gareth Evans has come out to say and gone on record with the fact that he's moved past the Raid movies and he can't see a third one ever happening. And I think we're more likely to get an American reboot than we are to see a true sequel. The second film ended so ambiguous and left most of us wondering about Rama's fate. And these are, of course, some of the best action movies in modern cinema, with by far the most well-choreographed, hard-hitting fights, and some truly great character building, at least in the second one. Now, I only wish we could get a third film and wrap this up into a nice, neat little trilogy. Number 7, Jump Street. 21 and 22 Jump Street are some of the most hilarious films to come out in the past decade. Hell, maybe even of all time. They are true modern classics, with clever dialogue, spectacular chemistry between the two leads, and undeniably witty and charming humor. Although the ending of 22 Jump Street seemed to parody the idea of going into further sequels, I honestly do not think that anyone would complain if Lord and Miller brought us back to Jump Street. And a really interesting idea this time would be to see Janko and Schmidt head into the police academy where their bond really grew, and see how their friendship is tested once again. Either way, I would love to jump into Jump Street one last time. Not to mention, ever since that Jump Street and Men in Black crossover fell through, I think we the people deserve at least one more. Number 6, 300. I just feel like there is definitely at least one more story left in this franchise. Although Rise of an Empire left a sour taste in many fans' mouths, the story isn't done and there's no way that you can tell me it's done. It ended at the beginning of an epic battle, and Xerxes is still out there. Now, whether they brought in a new director, or bring back Noam Moreau, who directed Rise of an Empire, I would be satisfied. But what I would really love is to see Zack Snyder return to this world and give us a definitive ending. Whoa, hold up a second. Before we get to the rest of our list, if you're enjoying the video, don't get stuck in the 92.1% who are currently watching this video and not subscribe to my channel. Subscribe now to get more content just like this, and while you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon, that way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And now, back to the video. Number 5, Tron. The original Tron has now become a classic, and Tron Legacy now seems to be getting the love that it always deserved. Sadly, this sequel disappointed majorly at the box office. But this movie is spectacular, with astounding visuals, of course aside from younger CGI Jeff Bridges. It has its own unique style. Not to mention Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde gave solid leading performances. I would love to return to this game one more time, just with slightly less completely de-aged monstrosities. Number 4, Predator. Now I know, most people think this franchise should probably just die off at this point, but hear me out. The original is considered one of the best action movies of all time. Its sequel was a disappointment. And although I personally really like Predators, I know that most people didn't really enjoy it all that much. And The Predator was practically universally panned. But I believe this franchise deserves one last shot to try and wrap things up properly this time. I would love to see Arnie return as an aged Dutch leading a team of commandos against another Predator, passing down all that he learned from his first encounter. Of course, I would like to see them dial back on the CGI a bit, and give us a much more grounded and tense journey like the first one did. Will this happen after the flop that was The Predator? Probably not, but I would love to see it. Number 3, Blade Runner. Now, I pretty much know for a fact that this one isn't going to happen. For those of you who don't know, the original Blade Runner was actually a flop at the box office, but since it became a classic, they tried once again with Blade Runner 2049, and that was also a flop at the box office. Yeah, we failed these movies. But Blade Runner 2049 is possibly one of the best movies ever made. But more so than that, so it fits this list, it actually ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. If you didn't realize, there's still a lot of questions unanswered. What happens with the replicant revolution? Does Kay or Joe actually die at the end? Is Joy truly gone forever? Not to mention Jared Leto's Neander Wallace is still on the hunt for Deckard's daughter. And now that Deckard and his daughter are reunited, where do they go from there? How do they run? How do they hide? So many unanswered questions. Of course, personally, I would want to see Denis Villeneuve return, but I also wouldn't be opposed to another director trying to take a shot. The one thing I don't want though is the studio making it just a generic action sci-fi flick. I just hope that if we do get a sequel, they don't try to dumb it down just to make a quick buck. Number 2, Alien. Once again, another franchise that I am sure you would just prefer to see die off. But again, hear me out. Ridley Scott had a vision, a 3-film arc that would link Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and whatever came next back to the original Alien flick. That was the whole point. Those two movies were connected for a reason, and they were supposed to connect to a 3rd film, which would then tie up the franchise. And if you think about it, Ridley Scott has done so much for Hollywood and the industry as a whole. He has made so many revolutionary flicks that changed the game forever. Think about, yes, the original Alien. Think about Blade Runner. Think about Gladiator. The man has done it time and time again. So I really hope that Disney finds it somewhere in their wallet to give this man the money that he needs to make one last final Alien flick. Because I think after all he's done, he at least deserves that. And coming in at number 1 on today's list is Mad Max. Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best action movies of all time, hands down. It's magnificent in every aspect of filmmaking. The majority of the film was practical effects, like 80%. You just don't see that anymore. And although Furiosa stole the show, and I would be more than happy to get a sequel starring her, I think that Tom Hardy deserves a fair shot to take on Max Rokitansky once again. And George Miller planned on making at least 2 more sequels, with the second one even having a rumored name of Mad Max Wasteland. Although as of right now, it does seem like we might actually be getting a Furiosa prequel. I want to see a true sequel to Mad Max Fury Road. Hell, I'll take 2 more, I'll take 5 more, as long as George Miller keeps doing what he did with Fury Road. Sure, this franchise had its ups and downs, and Fury Road could definitely be a fitting ending. There's no way that you can tell me that you would not like to take a ride through the wasteland one last time.
So that was all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agreed or disagreed with my picks. And feel free to let me know if you think I missed any major franchises that definitely should have been on here. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon, that way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.
Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.